วัสดีค่ะ Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Thai people, we are so proud to welcome you all to this conference today. Today we have people from all over the places. In this on-site, we have up to 102 people registration on-site with 145 people online from at least 27 countries. So welcome you all from all over the places in different time zones today. I'm Assistant Professor Dr. Waraporn Sukumawasi on behalf of Veterinary School at Chulalongkorn University. I will be your Master of Ceremony today. So the chairman of the opening ceremony, Ms. Veverica Sorg, the conference chairperson, Associate Professor Dr. Chanarong the Dean, the Representative Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Science, Chulalongkorn University, the representative from Mahidol University, GIZ University, and distinguished guests. I'm very delighted to be here as your Master of Ceremony for the opening ceremony of the first International Hybrid Conference on Aquaculture Sustainability, as known as AquaSustain 2024, organized within these 3 days. I hope that we would not have the torrential rain for you to welcome you during the rainy season that much. We have 6 engaging topics: natural productivity, One Health approach, climate events, which I'm really looking forward to listen to, biodiversity, economics of natural productivity, and pond aquaculture, at last with the risks and mitigation. So all these topics, I believe that everyone would get to exchange the information and to learn from each other. So at this moment, let me proudly present the prelude show for the opening ceremony. Please welcome the Thai dancer from our vet school. Please. It's called Guinery dance. I'm sure you're pretty impressive with their dance. And with Kinnari Ron Ok Manora Bushayan, this is the name of the Thai dance. You may be curious what was all about. So this performance created by Pao Sanitwong Seni, the national artist who is specialized on Thai dance. This performance is delicate and graceful, also expressing the cheerfulness of Kinnari. Do you know what Kinnari is? Kinnari is the mythical animals, the mythical creature. They have bird, half woman. So this is maybe highly developed in evolutionary biology. So that's why we picked this for this aquaculture sustain. So next year maybe it's a half shrimp and half human or half fish. Indeed, we do have this kind of mythical animals. So please come back again, and hopefully the sponsor in kinds and sponsor financially supports would organize in Thailand again. So with this, please again give a big round of applause for their efforts in practice. You know what time they came this morning? Before dawn, 4:30 in the morning. 4:30 in the morning to get all these costumes sewed up to their bodies to make it perfectly graceful like this. And it requires a lot of practice, years and years. You can tell that. How can you do these hands? Hyperextended like this, it's really helpful for your office syndrome too. So during the break, please enjoy taking a moment of beautiful photo with our dancer. They are all our vet students. Okay. Very multi-talented indeed. So thank you again, your nice performance. So at this special moments, it's already auspicious with all nice dance. May I invite Associate Professor Dr. Chanarong Rodkham to give the reporting speech at this moment. Please, Dr. Chanarong. He is the chairman of opening ceremony for AquaSustain this year, the first one that organized, and he is also project coordinator of global program on sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. Also, that was wrong. Head of the Center of Excellence in Fish Infectious Diseases at Faculty of Vet Science, Chulalongkorn University.
Okay, thank you very much, MC. Good morning, everyone from Thailand and in ASEAN country, and good night for other countries in another time zone for to join our AquaSustain 2024 virtually. I would like to welcome all delegates, including the representative from German Embassy, all Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Science and Veterinary Medicine, Dean of Faculty of Fishery, GIZ University, the President of Aquatic Resource Research Institute, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, the Director General of GIZ, the representative of GIZ Country Director, representative of Director General of Department of Fisheries, President of Thai Aquatic Veterinary Association, TAWA, Thailand, the representative of National Science and Technology Development Agency, NASDA, Thailand, the representative of Executive Director of Thai National Research Council of Thailand, and all participants. On behalf of the organizing committee and the Faculty of Veterinary Science at Chulalongkorn University, I'm delighted to welcome all of you to join the first International Hybrid Conference on Aquaculture Sustainability 2024, or we call AquaSustain 2024, held from 24 to 26 July 2024 at Samyan, Mitrtown, Bangkok, Thailand. Here, the AquaSustain Conference convenes leading expert, researcher, and practitioners in aquaculture sustainability to address the current challenges and explore future opportunities in aquatic farming and resource management. We are honored to host this event, offering unique opportunities for academics and professionals from around the world to exchange the knowledge and experience. The AquaSustain scientific program is designed to foster discussion, inspire participants, and encourage interdisciplinary collaboration to advance the field of aquaculture. Lastly, I extend my profound gratitude to all committee's members, supporters, sponsors, and esteemed speakers for their dedication and hard work in preparing for this conference. We look forward to an excellent meeting with scientists from different countries sharing a new and exciting result in aquaculture sustainability. And please enjoy our knowledge and program. We prepare this book of abstract that I think everyone have. Yeah. Inside we put a lot of the abstract in the sixth session in this abstract. I would like to thank you every participant and all delegates again to join this Aquaculture Sustainability 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Chanarong, the Congress Chairperson of this year's conference. So at this moment, may I invite the Chairman of Opening Ceremony, Ms. Frederique Sorg, to give the opening speech at the stage. Please, Ms. Sorg.
Thank you very much. Please excuse in advance my appearance today, but I thought these T-shirts are so nicely produced so that I have to wear them and have to show them in full-fledged without any jacket on it. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure and honor for me to welcome you here on behalf of the German Embassy and the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation at the AquaSustain 2024, the first of its one, at the Chulalongkorn University here in Bangkok. This format of conference, of hybrid conference, and your broad participation from all over the world, in person but also online, shows the relevance of the topics we are going to discuss in the next 3 days. And you all know that aquaculture is a fast-growing sector. It contributes to food security, diverse diets, and it's generating jobs and incomes in the sector and along the value chains, and also for women, especially for women and young people. But this sector is under big pressure. It has to compensate declining stocks in marine and inland waters, and it has to feed a growing population. And also, let's say, the changing climate is putting this sector under pressure. Therefore, it's quite crucial that we have these kind of events, like the AquaSustain 2024, and that we are bringing together leading experts, researchers, practitioners, to exchange ideas and lessons learned, to facilitate the South-South exchange, and also to create new ideas and solutions for sustainable development of the aquaculture sector worldwide. And prior to the conference, and it was kicked off by Andrew actually and his emails, there was already an active online discussion going on, which is great. So I'm really confident that during the next 3 days, we will have fruitful discussions about topics like natural productivity, One Health, climate change, digital tools in the aquaculture sector, and also the challenges small-scale producers are facing. I'm happy that GIZ was able to bring together speakers from Ghana, India, Cambodia, and Germany to present and share our experiences and lessons learned of the last 8 years of implementing a global program on sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. This project was funded by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development and is implemented currently in 7 countries in Africa and Asia. with a focus on small-scale aquaculture and sustainable fishery management. And we have supported producers in implementing different production techniques, adapted them to climate change, and trained them in economic skills in the context of the Aquaculture Business School. And I'm happy that we have got Melanie on board, who will present this approach at the third day of the conference. And we are happy to share these experiences and reflect these experiences with you jointly in order to discuss how they can be further developed and also how they can be scaled up. I think that's important, to scale them up. And I would like to thank the organizing committee of the Faculty of Veterinary Science and the Center of Excellence for Fish Infectious Diseases for the coordination and organization of that event and providing us the opportunity for this exchange. I wish us all a fruitful discussion and the opportunity for networking in the breaks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sorg, for very warm and informative opening speech today. So at this moment, we are very grateful for her precious time to be the chairman of opening ceremony. May I invite Associate Professor Dr. Praputti Piyaviriyakul, the representative dean of Veterinary School at Chulalongkorn University, to present the token of appreciation to Ms. Veverica Sorg. We are very thankful for your honorable presence. Please, on the stage. Thank you very much, Dr. Praputti. And next, the organization of this conference would not have been possible without our supporters and partners from different organizations, both in kinds and in financial support. May I invite the representatives from our partners and organizations who have been kindly supporting the conference. Please proceed to the stage and let us show the gratitude towards this supportive cooperation with the appreciation plaque. So, with the first one, if I cannot pronounce appropriately, may I just GIZ GmbH. The representative is Ms. Veverica Sorg. Please come to the stage again. มอบไปแล้วมอบอีกได้ไหมไม่อันเดียวแก้ให้พี่หน่อยไปเอามาได้ไหมไปเอา Please have another picture of this memorable event with us again. Yes. ไปเอามา You are very important, so we cannot have just one. Thank you very much. So the next. The Center of Excellence in Infectious Diseases, Chulalongkorn University. So the representative should be coming to take the token of appreciation from us. I have known that you have been put a lot of efforts to put things together until today. Thank you very much. Next, Center of Excellence for Shrimp Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, Centex Shrimp. Please come to the stage. Thank you very much. Next, we would like to thank Faculty of Veterinary Science, Chulalongkorn University. Please come as the representative for the token of appreciation. Our faculty is nearby, so if you have time, please enjoy as well. Thank you very much. Next, the representative from International Graduate Course of Veterinary Science and Technology, or VST. Without you guys, we would not be able to have the team that is very, very diligent and hardworking to be part of our conference today. Thank you very much. This is our director of the program of VST. Next, the representative from Thai Aquatic Veterinary Association, or TAVA. So please come to the stage, Dr. Nantarika. Thank you very much. She has been very active and vivid to save our world under the water. Next, the representative from Aqua Innovac Company Limited. So please come to the stage for getting the token of appreciation. Thank you very much. All right, we are very grateful for your help and coordination. So we have some minutes left. So since you have been coming from far away in different time zone, and I've known that you maybe got the blue screen from traveling due to the abnormality of the system for your transit and taking the planes. So we would like to have your photos together. So please come to the stage for the group photo, the first set. Can I invite the VIP guests and the sponsors all together again on the stage, please? In the meantime, for the second set of group photo, the VIP guests, please remain on the stage, and the organizing committee would be on the stage with you. So at this moment, so please say cheese. So one formal photo, and the next would be one more, please. Another one, can we have the relaxed one? Maybe AquaSustain. This is the first one. The first one, very first one. All right. 3, 2, 1. It's quite cloudy today, and I'm so thankful that the rain is not coming yet. So please be awaking. All right, thank you very much. So the VIP guests, please stay on the stage, the VIP. And I would like to invite the organizing committee of AquaSustain. Yes, the VIP, please stay on the stage. หนูไปเชิญเลยลูกใครอะ ไปตาม organizing มาจ้ะไปตาม organizing มา The organizing committee and the VIP guests. Pretty much almost half of this conference. You have been really hardworking to have this possible. All right, the first one would be the formal photo. But you can still say cheese. All right, ready? Can I count? This one is the formal one with cheese. 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right, next one. AquaSustain. All right. All set? Thank you very much, everyone. I know it has been challenging for you to be all here together. So at this time, I believe that most of you may be wanting to take some break. So we would allow you to have a morning coffee break, and you can enjoy the poster session outside until 11. And then at 11, we will have technical session and keynote speakers. So please come back here at 11. We'll meet again. And I would like to thank on behalf of committee as the MC today. I will hand on the stage for the next MC. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณค่ะ
ข A very good morning to one and all present here. I'm Ditya Venkateshwaran, second-year PhD student from the International Graduate Program of Veterinary Science and Technology, Faculty of Veterinary Science, Chulalongkorn University. It gives me immense pride, pleasure, and privilege in welcoming each one of you to AquaSustain 2024, the three-day international hybrid conference on aquaculture sustainability. I hope you all are well energized for the day with a coffee. Well, because we have an exciting agenda for the day with insightful presentations and stimulating discussions. And for the day, we have 2 technical sessions and a big question workshop. And before we begin the session, I would like to give you a small information regarding the timing of the presentation. So the duration for each presentation, along with the question-answer session, is 30 minutes. And to help us keep track, you will have a bell being rung when 5 minutes is remaining, and you will have another bell being rung at 1 minute when it's left, and then a final long bell ringing when at the completion of 30 minutes. And we appreciate your cooperation in adhering to these time signals to ensure a smooth and efficient session. So with that brief introduction, let's begin the technical session 1. Technical session 1 is based on the theme of natural productivity, and this discusses the guidelines in sustainable aquaculture and its adaptability in the region. And we have the session moderator, Professor Mohammad Mahfuzul Haq from the Bangladesh Agricultural University, Bangladesh. And we have a virtual moderator, Dr. Partho Debnath, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. And we also have a moderator in Thai, and that's Dr. Ratchakorn Wongwaradeshkul, Inve Aquaculture, Thailand. And now I request the session moderator to take over.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this exciting technical session 1, which is about natural productivity guidelines on sustainable aquaculture and its adaptability in the region. And my name is Mohammad Mahfuzul Haq from Bangladesh Agricultural University, and it is my great honor and privilege to serve as the chair for this first technical session of AquaSustain 24 International Conference. And we are very privileged to have with us a distinguished panel of 4 speakers on various aspects of natural productivity, ranging from ecological balance to global seafood trade. We are embarked on the session, and I welcome everyone to actively participate, ask questions, and engage discussion. So, without further delay, let us welcome our first presenter, Dr. Ian Kahle, and he is from GIZ Germany, and he is going to present how natural productivity contributes to the fish production, examples from global program Sustainable Fisheries in Aquaculture. Let's welcome Dr. Ian Kahle.
Thank you very much for this lovely introduction, and thank you very much for your participation here and your interest in the topic. I'm looking very much forward to the coming days and the discussions we're going to have about the topics we all think about a lot. I give you a presentation today about how natural productivity contributes to fish production with examples from the global program Sustainable Fisheries and Aquaculture. And I actually thought it's a good idea to start this presentation with a very basic question. This basic question is, what is aquaculture? And to do so, to find an answer to this, I looked it up in Wikipedia, and Wikipedia tells us that aquaculture is a controlled cultivation of aquatic organisms. I thought, well, this is actually true, but is this the full truth? I think it's not. So I would like to extend this definition by it's not moving on the screen, I see, whereas it's moving on my. How does that work? Where do I have to switch? Oh, it's this one? Ah, there we go. Still not, it's moving again here, but it's not moving there. So that's the pleasure of the first presentation. Let's give it a minute. Thank you so much. Good technical stuff we have here. Excellent. Thanks a lot. As I mentioned, I think it's a good idea, I thought it's a good idea to start with the question, what is aquaculture? Even though we have an audience here which probably excellently knows what aquaculture is. Nevertheless, I looked it up on Wikipedia and I thought this is not the full part of the definition. Oh, this is the wrong direction. Now we go this way. Because the business part is missing. And I would like to add this business part to the definition, saying that aquaculture is a business activity which is there to generate profit by the cultivation of aquatic organisms. And then we are here today on the AquaSustain. So in this definition, still something is missing, and this is the sustainability aspect. This is why I feel maybe in future we find on Wikipedia, hopefully, a definition which includes this by saying that aquaculture is a business activity to generate profit by the controlled cultivation of aquatic organisms in a sustainable way and within planetary boundaries. I think the discussion about planetary boundaries has come up in the past and is very important in order to maximize productivity and utilize this productivity we can have on planet Earth. But first, let me give you a small insight into the global program for sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. As Friederike Sorg already mentioned, it's funded by the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, started in 2016 and will run till October next year. And the focus, the target, is to increase accessibility for the food insecure population to fish products and to increase income and jobs in the value chain. It's a global program because it's implemented not in one country, but in several. There's active teams in 7 countries. All in all, it has been active in 9. The target groups of this project, of this program, is, of course, the food insecure population. But the main work we have done with the small-scale farmers, fish farmers, artisanal fishermen, and farmer organizations. There is also the actors along the value chain, which is part of the target group, and it goes all the way up to the policy level. So political partners and other stakeholders in the value chain are also a very important target group of this program. We intend to contribute to several sustainability development goals. Of course, the zero hunger, number 2, is important. Poverty, number 1. There is gender equality. There is the responsible production and consumption, and for the for the fisheries projects, it's also the life below water, which are important SDGs. When we started implementing this global program, the big question came up: what type of aquaculture, what type of technique is really able to sustainably increase fish production within the context of the rural communities in the partner countries? My background is, I'm a biologist, ecologist. I have worked many years in aquaculture. Some of the systems I had the opportunity to get to know a little bit closer is organic trout farming, but also intensive trout farming. It's organic shrimp farming, also intensive shrimp farming, and there is also traditional carp farming and very intensive carp farming. So I figured out that the diversity in aquaculture is huge. So there's plenty of techniques, different species, different environmental concerns, different techniques, feeding techniques. There is a huge variety, and we weren't sure what would be the best approach to implement increased sustainable production within these different countries involved in the global program. I thought further. In general, we don't have too many opportunities. We can either increase productivity, which I would like to define as the kilos per hectare, so it's an area-related unit. The productivity is kilo per hectare. Or we can increase the production overall by extending the same productivity over a larger area. Or we do a combination of both, increase productivity and extend the area. But before diving into the details, I think let's have a global perspective on productivity and production. Here we see planet Earth somewhere there in the outer space. It's a pretty isolated blue-green bubble, and it doesn't have much interaction with other planets, so there is not material coming into planet Earth. Everything which is built up and degraded on planet Earth is actually happening within this blue-green bubble. Still, it's full of life, it's full of productivity, so something must be driving this productivity, and if we have actively participated in biology lessons in school, we've learned the driving force for this is the sunlight. The sunlight driving photosynthesis, driving primary production, and therefore driving the food production for the fish we want to produce. So we can conclude, if we take this seriously, that a certain area on planet Earth cannot exceed its productivity beyond that level of energy which is provided by the sun. On the other hand, sunlight alone is not enough to really generate photosynthesis and let plants grow. No, it needs nutrients, it needs water, it needs carbon dioxide, and accordingly, productivity can easily be much less than compared to what would have been possible if the sunlight could have been completely utilized. This leads me at least to conclusion number 2, that maximum productivity is achieved only when everything that is required for primary production is there at the right concentration. And I always very much like these optimum curves because it describes what is happening in biological systems very, very well. There is a biological or ecological potential which is either utilized, overutilized, or underutilized, and this depends very much on the concentration of all the other factors. Are they sufficiently there? Are they not sufficiently there? And this has a huge impact on the productivity. Only if we know really what is needed for proper productivity and for these ecological processes to let primary production grow, and if we apply this knowledge in terms of a good management, we can come from this desert underwater to a kind of tropical rainforest underwater. If there's only one limiting factor, might be a nutrient not there, this whole process cannot be established. But if it's there, if everything is in balance, natural productivity can easily increase from a few kilos per hectare to several thousand kilos per hectare. So when we look at this kind of productivity, there's several pros for it. It needs usually only minor additional inputs to increase productivity a lot. This requires minimum investments. There is hardly any negative environmental impact related to an increased natural productivity because it's all in an ecological balance. Usually this goes along with an increased biodiversity because this requires different species to utilize all ecological niches in such a system. It's acceptable in the rural context. There's little risk to diseases. And environmentally, economically, and socially, it's highly sustainable. But of course, there's also some cons to it. There's good knowledge, as already mentioned, required, and this good knowledge has to be sort of transported to the people implementing it in terms of good management practice. And this is often a critical issue because people who practice aquaculture often have a lack of this ecological knowledge and often therefore feel insecure to apply it. In some contexts, this is well established. In others, it's not. And there is a very important limiting factor, and this is the sunlight. So the output per hectare still is limited to the sunlight in some way, and natural productivity has its top and cannot be exceeded. And today's aquaculture production often goes within the 10, 15, 20, or even more tons per hectare, whereas natural productivity often goes up to 1, 2, maybe 3, and then it finishes. So what can be done to really increase productivity beyond what is provided by the sun? I think this is contradictory to the first conclusion and actually cannot happen, at least not in a global perspective. But what can be done is to aggregate natural productivity. I mean, we can have a natural productivity on one area, harvest this productivity, take it to an aquatic system, to a pond, and use it. I think the application of feed is a perfect example for this because it utilizes natural productivity from the ocean in terms of fish meal, from a soybean field in terms of soybeans, and produces a fish feed which is put into a hectare of pond, and there it can increase fish production significantly. But I would like to call this transfer of productivity, I think it's good to call it intensification, because it really allows an intensive fish production which goes far beyond what is available if we rely on natural productivity only. So the conclusion is that intensification, as we see it in agriculture as well as in aquaculture, does not really increase productivity on a global perspective, but it transfers productivity from one area to another. And hopefully it transfers productivity from the land of plenty, let's call it, to somewhere where it's needed most. But this comes at a cost. And this cost is an increasing demand for external inputs. This is an increasing demand for ecosystem services. There is an increase in kilos fish, yes, in production, but very often the profit per kilo fish is decreasing because of the additional inputs which have to be purchased. Feed application always comes with an aggregation of organic matter, leading to biological imbalances, increasing the risk for diseases and failures due to oxygen depletion, predators, and theft. It also increases external costs, which economically may not be paid for, but still the society has to take care of it. And it often leads also to a decreasing biodiversity because intensive systems usually are managed as monoculture systems. Applicability for poor households is not so good because there is a lack of investment capacities, and there is therefore also a decreasing social acceptance coming along with highly intensive production systems. I believe, looking at the optimum curve we've seen for biological processes earlier, I believe there should also be an optimum curve for the intensification. So when we look at the x-axis here and we look at the intensification in this direction, we go from natural productivity, which can be supplemented with supplementary feeds, agricultural byproducts. We can then start aggregating productivity from elsewhere in terms of feed. And then we also can have systems like net cages or recirculating systems which purely depend on external inputs. Somewhere there also must be an optimum. But where this optimum is, I cannot tell you today, but I hope the coming days will bring us a little bit closer to this in order to figure out where are the external costs becoming dominant and where can we utilize productivity, natural productivity, in a better way. Coming back to the global program, we decided for our implementation strategies to focus on the natural productivity, mainly because the investment capacities of our target group have been too low in order to go for highly intensive systems. So we established trainings and productivity and supplementary feeding. We used innovations to utilize this productivity better. We linked stakeholders in the value chain, and we supported policy development in order to improve the situation. There is a homepage where you can look up this. I think these presentations will be shared. There's plenty of links for training materials and others. And there you can look at all these things. Some examples from the different countries. In Malawi, we were able to increase natural productivity by about 60%. Fish farmer harvested 60% more fish. In Malawi, we also engaged in an innovation, better utilization of natural productivity by intermittent harvesting. Instead of putting a catfish into a tilapia pond to feed on the small fish, we utilized the small fish production, the highly fecundity of tilapia, and used it to feed the people. In Madagascar, there has been an increase in productivity around 40% for pond culture systems. And in rice fish culture, the area was extended, so there was an increased production of about 100 tons available. Of this was 70% roughly available for the food insecure population. And in India, we focused very much on the extension service, on the provision of extension service, because India has a very good system with the major Indian carps, where there is a good use of the ecosystem and a high productive system available, but this knowledge has to be delivered further out. And there will be presentations on those different country packages later as well. Supplementary feeding was also a big topic in India. And in Cambodia, there will also be presentations. There is a community fish refuge, which have increased by good management productivity of about 50–60%. And in homestead fish culture with these processes, we could also increase productivity of around 40%. And the same is true in Zambia, where productivity was very low, and we could increase productivity by about 94%. To summarize, I think natural productivity driven by the sunlight can be very high if it's managed properly and the management is also applied. Natural productivity, especially in aquaculture, I feel is very often underutilized, especially in rural contexts. And if we go for intensification and feed application, I feel this must fit for the context. This must fit the technical and the financial capacities of the producers, geographically, climately, and we must consider externalities and potential negative aspects. A stepwise approach for a sustainable development of aquaculture could be to optimize first natural productivity in order to generate more output from the same input, and to utilize suitable areas for aquaculture. Site selection is a very important topic as well. Then, as a next step, we need to develop business skills with the producers in order to generate a business attitude and enable informed decisions by the producers to allow sustainable investments. And then, hopefully, we can sustainably utilize external inputs along with the economic capacities and within the planetary boundaries. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ian, for your fantastic presentation, particularly natural productivity in relation to sunlight. So now I welcome questions, comments, discussion from the audience, please. Who is going to ask the question first? Yes, please. And we have a little friend, Joseph. He's going to help with the microphone. Joseph, please go over there. Yeah. Joseph is a son of Dr. Francis Murray, our friend. He's from University of Stirling. So he's helping us, facilitating us.
Thank you for a very good distinct presentation. I just wanted to know, say, natural productivity is the basis for sustainable aquaculture, but there is a challenges in assessing natural fish production potential from pond or say shallow wetlands. What method do you think is the best? Because I'm from Central Indian Fisheries Research Institute, India, so we have been working on assessing productivity, biological fish production potential, based on initially we did for many, morphoadaptic index and all. Then in shallow wetlands, same thing is true for our ponds also. We find it is not enough. It does not reflect actual production without any additional inputs. So that even this primary productivity by phytoplankton, it accounts to a very minor fraction of total biological productivity. What is your opinion in that?
Absolutely, I fully agree. Thanks a lot for that question. I think this is true. As mentioned, natural productivity is obviously limited, and there is usually a limiting factor, often found on the level of nutrients. So if sufficient nutrients are there in the right concentration, already primary production can increase a lot. As you mentioned, this is still low in terms of if you can aggregate productivity from elsewhere. I feel the zooplankton and phytoplankton is often still underutilized because it's very high in protein content. And fish feeding only on natural feed, they live on a feed which contains about 60–70% protein. No fish does need so much protein for optimum growth. This is when supplementary feeds come in. So natural productivity is one part which can be supplemented by carbohydrates in order to increase productivity already a lot. And still, obviously, it is much less compared to applying formulated feeds, because this is aggregating productivity from elsewhere. I'm bringing this topic up because I feel, especially in this whole discussion around food security, it is important to understand to decide whether we feed people on agricultural products or whether we feed animals and fish on agricultural products. There we need to find a balance in order to not let people starve while fish are being fed. And to come back to your question, I still feel that the natural productivity is the basis. It can be increased, and when the fish production per hectare is too low, then we always have the opportunity to culture fish on another hectare, and then we have twice as much fish. Because when we look at the feed production, and when you compare the kilos per hectare, very often the land required for feed production is not taken into the equation. So we always say, when we go for intensification, feed application, we can harvest 10 tons per hectare. This is 10 tons per hectare pond. But where does the feed come from? It also needs land to grow the feed. So in fact, it's not 10 tons per hectare, but maybe it's the same as when we go for more extensive production systems.
Thank you.
Utilizing natural productivity itself, production from the shallow wetlands, there are maybe up to 60 hectare or so. It has gone up to 1,500 and 1,800 kg per hectare also.
I think
their assessment is a main suggestion, no? So we tried diurnal oxygen curve that gave a more accurate result. But as you say, accumulated production by way of detritus reserve.
Thank you very much. I
That
think
also
we have the
works.
time limitation. So later we can discuss, person to person. We know that we have large number of online participations and many participants, asking the question. But I would like to take one question from the, online participant, and he asked about how to assess the achievement of natural product. And would you please answer? I think you have given some answer already. He said that how to assess the achievement of natural productivity.
How to assess the natural productivity means a measurement of
Something like this.
I think it is very valid to measure the kilos of fish when we talk about aquaculture and pond production of fish, be this tilapia, carp, or any other. Then we can always take the kilos of fish as a measure to measure this. And if we apply improved management techniques, we will see that fish production increases, and the additional inputs required for this are very often minor, because there is some factors limiting growth, and they need to be there in relatively low doses, nothing compared to the quantities of feed you need to put into an intensive system.
Thank you very much, and I think our time is ended for this speaker. So thank you, Dr. Ian, for your fantastic presentations and giving the answers, and let us give a round of applause. Thank you. Now we are going to the next keynote speaker, Professor Wenbo Zhang. He is from School of Fisheries and Life Sciences, Shanghai Ocean University, China. And he is going to speak on promoting ecological aquaculture with small-scale farmers. Professor Wenbo Zhang.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Wenbo Zhang from Shanghai Ocean University. It's really my great pleasure and privilege to be here to present some of our work. The topic is promoting ecological aquaculture with small-scale farmers. The work is mainly did in China, so it's mainly Chinese perspective. And the session is natural productivity and guidelines on sustainable aquaculture. And I'm happy to report I was involved in developing guidelines on sustainable aquaculture. I was vice chair on finalizing guidelines on sustainable aquaculture. And I'm also a member of China's delegation to FAO conferences. So I witnessed the guideline being approved by FAO Committee on Fisheries 2 weeks ago. China is moving very quickly from an agriculture society to an industrialized society in last 40 years. So we witnessed a lot of changes. And for agriculture, it is also a lot of changes. And in a way, we are ahead of the world. You probably read the recent SAFAL report, SAFAL 2024. It is reported that global aquatic animal production from aquaculture just surpassed production from capture fisheries in 2022. In China, we produce a lot of aquaculture production now. Aquaculture production is around 80% of total aquatic food production. And for the first time, we produce more from aquaculture than capture fisheries. It was 1993. So I can say we are like 30 years ahead of China. So we have a lot of experience in developing aquaculture. And there's some lessons could be learned from Chinese experience. Now we have a very strong motivation and capability to promote ecological development because we have very serious environmental pollution issues, especially in early 2000s, around 2010. There's a peak of environmental issues, air pollution, water pollution. And since then, the government is very focused on promoting this ecological civilization and ecological harmony. They call it a philosophy. We have very strong political will to promote ecological development, prioritize ecological protection and sustainable development. And we also have much input capability to do so because we have much better economic development now, and we have much improved industrialization. And for aquaculture, it is also true. Now we shifted our policy focus from food supply to environmental protection and food safety. So there's a lot of changes. A lot of high pollution system, aquaculture system were prohibited and wiped out, like indoor soft cell turtle farming and cage culture, pen culture in lakes, reservoirs, almost all wiped out. So all this high pollution system has no place now. And ecological aquaculture becoming an important direction for sustainable growth. So this is not just how to develop aquaculture. This is actually battle for the existence of aquaculture in China. Here are some very brief history of ecological aquaculture and the definition. Ecological aquaculture has very long history in China, especially like a polyculture system, like an integrated rice fish system, countries back to like Tang Dynasty, more than 1,000 years ago. But the modern concept, ecological aquaculture, emerged from agroecology concepts. The term ecological aquaculture, coined by Pinchot in 1974, is US scientist. There are some promotion of reducing input and utilizing waste using integrated aquaculture system or polyculture in 1980s, 90s. And after 2000, there are several key publications defined the sustainability criteria and principles for ecological aquaculture. So what is ecological aquaculture? That's a definition from Barry Pierce, also another US scientist. Ecological aquaculture is as an alternative model for aquaculture development that uses ecological principles and practices as a paradigm for development of aquaculture system. Professor Pierce also suggested several principles, mainly to suggest to recycle, reuse nutrients, reduce input, and mimic natural ecosystems. So we have some system can fit into this definition in China. As Dr. Kahle just mentioned, aquaculture is very diverse. There are so many different systems and species. We also have a variety of systems can fit into definition of ecological aquaculture. First one is a polyculture system, farming of two or more complementary species, originally from carp polyculture. Carp is still the most important species. It's a range of species. By production volume, it ranks first in the world. In China, we produce like 20 million tons every year. The polyculture of carp or other species is very easy to adopt, can improve productivity, improve resources use efficiency, and improve water quality. Some carp depend on feed input, but some are field feeding carps, depend on natural productivity, and can improve water quality. Polyculture is still widely practiced by small-scale farmers in China, but it became much more intensified with aerator and pellet feed since 1980s. As Dr. Kahle said, it just transferred some impact from aquaculture pond to other places. So there's still some environmental impacts. Polyculture is now dominating system in China. Around 80% freshwater aquaculture still use polyculture system. Second one is we call it water purification aquaculture. This is mainly used by maintain crab farming. Maintain crab is a high-value species. By value, it is ranked 7th in the world. The large size the mint crab can get much higher value, like 200 grams mint crab can get like $50 per kilo, very high value. But it needs a very extensive system to get a large-sized mint crab. So most of mint crab farming, they use extensive system. The yield is very low. They also use aquatic plants, filter feeding carps and mollusks to improve water quality. So water is very good. Now almost 100% mint crab farm use this kind of system. But there's also some issue, like they use trash fish as feed now. Integrated aquaculture system is, there's a lot of different kind of IA system. It's mainly combine aquaculture with crop and livestock production to recycle nutrients. So this is also another ecological aquaculture system. The most practiced is rice fish system. This kind of system have a long history, and they bring a lot of benefits, like recycle nutrients, to provide they diversify the income. But the system is more complex than monoculture, than aquaculture itself or rice farming. There's also some more investment and more labor demand. IA system is integration with other human activity system in Shutu, like integrated with agriculture, animal husbandry, sanitation, or local agro-industry. Rice fish farming is the typical one, the most important one. We also have a long history of rice fish farming in China. We have the first globally important agriculture heritage system is rice fish system. And the rice fish system also developed very quickly in China, especially in the last few years, and expanded in area and production very quickly. But rice fish system is not rice. It's mainly actually is red swamp crawfish. Red swamp crawfish is a high-value species. By value, it's ranked second after white-leg shrimp. It's second valuable aquaculture species in the world now, because we produce a lot, 2.2 million tons in 2021. More than half of area, rice fish area, and 60% rice fish production is actually red swamp crawfish. The production increase, and the red swamp production and the rice fish production developed at the same pace. Another system is water conservation aquaculture. It is basically culture-based fisheries. The way we use natural water bodies, lakes, reservoirs, changed from use natural fisheries resources to stock enhancement in 1960s, 70s, and to intensive polyculture, use cage culture system or pen culture in 1980s, 90s. But the paradigm changed to culture-based fisheries in early 2000s, started in Lake Qiandao. We use field feeding carps, like big head carp and silver carp, as bottom-up biomanipulation to improve water quality. Now, Lake Qiandao became drinking water source for 50 million people in Zhejiang province. So it makes a very big contribution to local economy. And the industry itself, the carp farming itself, also is very profitable, because they have a very good branding system. They developed a very good value chain. They have because they have no feed input, so it's easier for them to get organic certification. So this is the first fish certified as organic fish in China in early 2000s. And they have a whole value chain. They have a fingerling farm. They have this harvest team, and they have their own sales channels, and they have a lot of branding advancement, and they build the whole value chain, and they can sell their products 3-4 times than conventional fish, than carps produced from pond. So they are very profitable. It's not just use fish as a tool to improve water quality. The industry itself is very profitable. Another system is a dark pond system. You also maybe know it as Jitang system. It combines agriculture, aquaculture together. The most famous one is Marbury dark pond system. Marbury integrated with fish and silkworm. They use mulberry leaves as feed for silkworm, and silkworm feces as feed for fish, and use pond sediment as fertilizer for mulberry. So there's a lot of recycled reuse of nutrients in the system. It was seen as a very typical system for ecological agriculture. But almost all this kind of system all gone. There's no commercial practice anymore in China now. It's all gone. Next one is integrated multiple tropical level agriculture. You also know it as IMTA. It's very famous. Co-farming extractive seaweed molluscs with fed fanfish to recycle reuse nutrients. It emerged in late 1980s, early 1990s in Canada, and expanded globally through some experimental commercial small-scale trials. There are some large-scale demonstrations in Shanghai Bay, Shandong province in China. But there are some really big challenges, like high startup cost, very complex system, because it involves several species, not just fish, but also seaweeds and molluscs. So it's very complex. Chinese government provide a lot of subsidies to promote IMTA in China. And a survey a few years ago found, after subsidies stopped, farmers changed back to monoculture because it's too complex to manage. It's very labor intensive to manage this kind of system. And now the Shanghai Bay farming used more like a zoning approach. It is not integrated in one farm. It's more like a zoning approach. Fish in one area, molluscs in one area, and seaweed in another area. So it's more like a zoning approach. It's not integrated system anymore. Aquaponics is also called ecological aquaculture system, but it is also a very complex system. It involves aquatic plants and fish, and more importantly, some biofilters, bacteria in the system. Three different different species, very different requirement for farming for water condition. So it's very difficult to manage. It mainly practiced small scale as a personal system, personal hobby. And that survey found like 80% practitioners have master or PhD degree. You really need a PhD degree to run this system. So it's not possible to promote with small scale farmers. Aquaponics is very difficult. And we also have in-pond raceway introduced from US. And we modified this to an integrated system. You can see this is several raceway can farm fish intensively. And we also use outside to farm field feeding fish and aquatic plants, so can improve water quality. So this is also one kind of integrated system. But this system also very complex. It needs a lot of energy and constant supply of energy. It's a very risky system. And very expensive to run. And actually all such system not profitable in US, so they stopped to use this. And most of such system in China is not profitable. So we have some lessons learned and some trade-offs. There are a lot of changes in China, especially intensification and diversification to high-value species, to more intensified feed-based system. And some traditional systems disappeared, like Marbury duck pond system, duck fish system. So why is some ecological aquaculture system more successful, more adopted by small-scale farmers more than others? Because all these successful wild adopted system, they provide economical viability, social responsibility, and environmental soundness. Low level complexity and labor demand. Complex system is very difficult for small-scale farmers because they have limited technical and financial capability. So most of these ecological ecosystems, they need to be, very simple, they need to be profitable at first and reduce labor input and practicable for small-scale farmers. A complex system like MTA, like aquaponics, is very difficult to promote. And the environmental gains and all these ecological aquaculture system are more like a byproduct, are not primary aim for farmers. Aquaculture, as Dr. Kahle also said, is a business for farmers. Farmers are not environmental agencies. They are not charities, so they are seeking profit. And no aquaculture system is perfect. Even we call this system as ecological aquaculture system. They also have some trade-offs, some impact. Ecological is more like a relative concept. So why we need to promote ecological aquaculture is a promise to developing ecological aquaculture. Ecological aquaculture emphasizes recycling and reusing nutrients. It's actually based on resources poor traditional farming practices. In early years, in the history, before Green Revolution, before we use a lot of fertilizers, all agriculture is in the resources poor condition. There's limited input from outside agriculture. So need to recycle the use of the nutrients. And now, because we have all this new input, chemical and feed, aquaculture in China is moving to a more modern agriculture. Traditional agriculture is more open with lower capital investment, integrated system, low inputs, small scale, and community-based. But modern agriculture is more closed system, high capital investment. It's more specialized, less integrated, with more external input and large scale and commercial. So there's big difference between traditional and modern agriculture. So why we still need integration? Why there's a lot of argument we need integration. Integration is mainly from resources poor condition in history. This is a summary of agriculture development from previous crop dominant settlement agriculture to integrated system, and then to industrial monoculture. Before Green Revolution, there's a lot of most of agriculture is in resources poor condition, so we need to recycle the nutrients. But in history, this lead to we call it agriculture involution, because we have like in China, we have a big pressure, population pressure, increased population. We have limited land. We have we are in resources resources poor, and there's rich, low-priced human resources. So we use a lot of this integrated system to provide more jobs and increase land yield or productivity. But in this process, we found diminishing marginal efficiency of labor input, reduced labor productivity, and thus poverty. So there's a lot of issue with this. And there's another lesson, the ancient wisdom of recycling and reuse nutrients in the integrated system. It emerged under resources poor condition with limited external input. But now we have a lot of affordable input. Chemical fertilizers is no longer a concern, but available land and labor become more important limiting factors. So we need to consider a lot of trade-offs among social, economic, and the environment. And there are several emerging related concepts like restorative, regenerative, and conservative aquaculture. They use aquaculture as a toolbox for ecological remediation and restoration rather than produce food. And I also found the FAO definition for aquaculture, and FAO definition focuses on enhancing production for human consumption, and also emphasizes the individual or corporate ownership of the stock. So it is different with restorative ecological aquaculture system concept. System focus on just ecological restoration may not qualify as aquaculture as according to FAO definition. So that's another lesson. Aquaculture is primarily an economic activity, so requires self-sufficient. So if it's not sustainable by itself economically, it's not an aquaculture system. So we can define ecological aquaculture accordingly. It is a business at first, and the primary goal is to enhance production to produce food. So finally, the conclusion, the pathway for advancing ecological aquaculture. There's some success, so we can learn some lessons. And the future, we need to evaluate all the different concepts and use holistic life cycle and the food system approach, because there's a lot of studies from the ecological footprint of aquaculture is not in the farming sector, it's more in feed producer sector. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wenbo, for your very comprehensive presentation on ecological aquaculture. So we invite very few questions from the audience, please. Dear audience, if you, I think there are many questions to you, but directly if anyone asks specific questions. Yes, please. Joseph.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the nice presentation. I am from India. Sir, I want to ask about IPRS, in-pond raceway system. So is this system conducive for all types of fish, like IMC, like carps and other fishes? And what would be the production in per hectare? In 1 hectare area, how much production we can expect? Thank you.
Thank you. IPRS, in-pond raceway system, they can produce around 20 to 30 tons per hectare. It is similar with traditional pond aquaculture system, but it concentrated production in small area in the raceways. But the overall production in the whole system, because it also need a lot of area outside the raceways, the production, the yield of the whole system is actually equivalent to the traditional pond aquaculture in China. It's around 20 to 30 tons per hectare. The main species found We have a lot of different species, but the main species is grass carp and largemouth bass and black carp and some other fish species.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more question, please? Yes, another question.
For a very good presentation. Actually, ecological aquaculture or ecosystem-based aquaculture is the need of the hour for sustainable aquaculture. But it needs a good research support for assessing the environment, ecosystem processes, then food available at different trophic levels, say trophic structure. So how far it will be practicable? So we are also working on that level, on that aspect, ecosystem-based, say, fish, small-scale fish production systems. But will it be possible for the farmers to practice that level? Or can we have some generalized, simplified way of advising them how to do it?
Sorry, what's the question? What's the small?
Please.
Sir, say, as I said, ecological aquaculture, it needs some information, basic information about the ecosystem processes in the pond or say shallow wetlands, and the food available at different trophic levels, no? Primary production, plankton, phytoplankton, something you have already covered. But for a farmer, can we have some generalized thing that if this is the pond type, go for this species, like that? That only I wanted to know.
I think he wants to know
Yeah.
the classification or characteristics of the pond, where you can suggest farmer do different kinds of practices of ecological aquaculture. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, there's so many different system can call ecological aquaculture, but in general, aquaculture system in China is much more intensified, with mainly with a lot of feed input, so it's no longer dependent on natural productivity, and there's the most important system in China is still pond aquaculture. The pond aquaculture we have a Chinese government project or movement. We call it standardization to build a standardized pond system. Pond system in China is there's no big difference in different places. They also have equipped it with water inlet outlet system, feeding system, and aeration system. I think in different regions, the farmers need to choose different species and the system according to local context. And we also have some zoning approach. One area, one district focus on one species to form a farm zone. All these farms in this zone use very similar practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wenbo. I think you can discuss with him later and for the more details. Thank you very much for your very great presentations.
Thank you.
I think a lot of interesting things came out. Now we are going to our next keynote speaker, and who is Professor Karen Veverica, and she was former director of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Research Station, Auburn University, USA. So she is going to present her experience, that is about what I have learned from 20 years of growing fish without using manufactured feed. I think that will be a very interesting presentation. Professor Karen.
Okay. This is, backslide is up. Okay. I've got it. All right. Thank you. So I'm a slow speaker, so let's get started right away. I've been working in aquaculture since the mid-'70s, and I started out as a Peace Corps volunteer in West Africa. So let's see. And for those of you that know what Peace Corps was like in Africa, it was mostly getting farmers to grow fish in ponds with very few inputs available. And this was intriguing to me as being trained as an aquatic ecologist. So off and on, I would go between different countries in Africa for long-term projects for Auburn, and then back to the US, working in the southern US where we have pond-based catfish culture that was using feeds. So it was really interesting for me to transition, you know, a few years here, a few years there, and I kept doing that for most of my career of 37 years at Auburn. So one of my longest term assignments was in Rwanda, and this was with the Pond Dynamics Aquaculture CRISP, and they were supposed to do research in different parts of the world on pond aquaculture. So AIT had a program here, there was one in Honduras, and I was recruited from working in Rwanda already on an extension project to conduct the research there in Rwanda. So everyone was supposed to do the same thing, and they were comparing results. Rwanda, though, we had a special condition, and as you can see in the 1980s, this was during the time of the aquaculture CRISP in the 80s and 90s, they were the highest densely populated country in Africa. The average farm size was about 1/2 hectare back then. No manufactured animal feeds were available in the whole country. You could almost not get any agricultural byproducts either. All the farmers were required by the government to have a compost pit for fertilizer, and if they didn't have it and the agriculture extension agent came by, they were charged a fine. So everyone would make the pit and put stuff in it, but they didn't want to use it because then they could get fined for not having anything in the pit, so they would just leave it there. Also, it's a very mountainous country, so it's a very small country, but I think if you ironed it out, it would be twice as big. It's so mountainous. Elevations were high, and the weather was relatively cool. This is our research station. I helped them build the research ponds, and by the time I left Rwanda, we had over 100 ponds at that research station managed by the university. Okay, so the research questions that I wanted to ask, besides what this USAID project was for, was how do we apply inputs that the farmers have? And they had very, very little. So these were static water ponds, or they were supposed to be, no aeration. Typically, we could get our hands on tilapia and clarias. One of the first sets of experiments we did was to fertilize with grasses and use some manure as a supplement to that. So 80% grass, 20% chicken litter. It wasn't full manure, on a dry matter basis. We had an excellent, excellent water quality laboratory. It's used standard methods. It was top notch. So we could answer a lot of questions about water chemistry and water quality, primary productivity, nitrogen budgets through that laboratory. And this is something that most people don't have access to when they're trying to promote this low input aquaculture. So we wanted to know, should we take our vegetable matter and compost it in the pond, or go outside the pond and then put it in? We also wanted to know, should we broadcast it over the pond or put it in a corral? What about putting a lot in at the beginning to get things moving and then apply organic matter throughout the cycle, or should we just apply constant amounts throughout? And how much? How much is too much? How much do you need? And what kind of productions can you get with only grass plus manure, or grass plus some chemical fertilizer? We even looked at the forage production of different grasses and at what cutting rate that gave you the best quality grass as inputs. Okay, so real quick, because I have a lot to go through. The compost, or the cut grasses with the manure applied fresh in the pond did significantly better than anything composted outside of the pond, either aerobically composted or anaerobically composted, fermented. Broadcast versus corralled, in the corral was better than just broadcasting it over the surface. And we thought that was maybe a surface effect from the bacteria being able to colonize the vegetable matter better. It also, I was really happy for that because it helped our sampling, our fish sampling. It was a real pain to sample around those grasses floating around in the pond. The high initial application of fertilizer, when I worked for the extension project before that, we required farmers to do that high initial, to fill up that compost bin before we brought the fingerlings, okay? So that way we were sure that the fish would have something to eat on. But it turned out that the constant application rate was a lot better. And it was because we had a significant oxygen depletion on about day 10 after stocking, and that really slowed the fish down, I think. How much to apply? 500 kilos per hectare per week on a dry matter basis was about the max for that area. Again, it's relatively cool in Rwanda, so it might be a little bit higher, but definitely 1,000 kilos per hectare per week. It didn't kill the fish, but they really slowed down in their growth rates due to low, every day, very, very low oxygen. What can you get out of the grasses? Only grass, no manure, no chemical fertilizer, just cut grass, was about 750 to 900 kilos per hectare per year. And then if you added a little bit more, you could get 1,000 to 2,000. I put 1,500 here. You can get that if you have the right kind of grass, but that's not reliable. Okay, so later on, about a decade later, I started out in Kenya in the 1990s, and we were able to take one more step beyond that. So the Kenyans had larger farm sizes. You could get manufactured and pelleted animal feeds. You could get bran, wheat bran, rice bran, and maize bran. Chemical fertilizers and agricultural lime was available, and the farmers had some cash. But they still weren't aerating, okay? And so that will limit your options a lot of times. I was on the research station at Sagana. We added a bunch of ponds on. We had to do our required research from the Pond Dynamics Aquaculture CRISP still. So we determined optimum nitrogen and phosphorus application rates. We did nutrient budgets there as well. And we started looking at chemical fertilizer plus bran. And we selected wheat bran because it was more reliable. It was more consistent in quality. Rice bran depended on the mill and it could be between 5% and 12% protein. So it was a little bit undependable. We found out that you could use bran and fertilizer and get pretty good production, like 7 tons per hectare. And on the enterprise budgets, it worked out that a person, if they had a hectare surface area of ponds, they could make a family income of $1,000 US per month, which is what I was shooting for. And that's what a university professor made at the time. And just bran and fertilizer, tilapia with a bit of clarias mixed in. All right, so because we were looking at these different levels of intensity, let's say, I decided to look at our research data, and someone had asked me, you know, what level is best for what people. And so it was at the time, then they changed names from the Collaborative Research Project to the Innovation Lab. But I always wondered why they called it that, because people weren't using what was known for the last 30 years before anyways, so what are you going to innovate? But I figured the innovation comes from understanding the system and being able to communicate to the farmers. Here's the question. Okay, nobody wants to be a subsistence farmer when they grow up. If your child told you they wanted to become a subsistence farmer, you'd probably give them a whack on the side of the head and a good talking to. So why are we promoting technologies that keep the farmer in the subsistence level? They don't want to be there, okay? What does subsistence mean? It means they don't produce an excess of production. But actually, the poor farmers growing fish needed those fish for nutrition, but they didn't eat them, they sold them. And they would take the money and buy a basket of sweet potatoes. You get a lot more. Plus you get some cash, and you can maybe pay some school fees, or you might have to pay for a health emergency. So I kind of was getting the idea of working with these extension programs so long that you really have to give these options to the farmers. And it's difficult because this type of research requires a lot of replicates. If you're doing really research, normally you want 3 replicates per treatment or 4. You have to go up to 9 for simple input aquaculture to get any significant differences. Why? Because the output is so variable, and a lot of it depends on the soil that the pond is made from and on the previous uses for the pond, the previous inputs in the pond. So it's highly, highly variable. I said, you know, I don't really want to keep poor people poor. And so let's see what we can do about this. All right, so this was a presentation I gave quite some years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago. So we're talking about these different levels of technology or inputs. So the first one is what I call put stuff in the pond, okay? And we called this also the no cash treatment, or the no cash technology. What do? You get leaves, grasses, anything that you have. You don't have to spend any money. You need to buy the fingerlings, but usually there's some project that'll buy you the fingerlings the first time. But you will need to buy them the next time, usually. So then, again, so what we had done with the composting in Rwanda many years back, that helped us kind of put a bit of research-backed information behind us in recommending how you apply these inputs. We know that the enclosures work better. They should be about 5% of the pond area. The sticks that hold the stuff in should not be too close together because the fish will act as your mixers. And tilapia are really good at going in, and they don't necessarily eat all the inputs, but they'll work it around in their mouth and suck off the bacteria. And I've watched them do it on many, many occasions. It's fresh is better than dried, and that makes it a little softer, and if there's something in there that tilapia will eat, they'll eat it. But the production is variable, of course, but typically you're going to get about 10 kilos per 100 square meters, okay? And sometimes up to 20, so between 10 and 20. And those were the average productivities that we were getting in ponds in Rwanda in the 1980s at the end of the project. So previously it was 300 kilos per hectare, and we got it between 1,000 and 2,000. So this is in line with what our previous speakers were talking about a little bit too. All right, so it's, this is the FAO publication, and I didn't like it because, number one, they have too high a freeboard, not enough water in the pond. Number two, I call this the micro compost, okay? So, but they didn't ever have the amount of compost to put in their previous publications. They have improved it since then, by the way. Now they have too much detail. But we went for something like this, and you just put stuff in the thing. Look at the water, nice green color. The Congolese called this the restaurant. Of course, it could be misapplied, and so this is what I use in my training. You would have the compost, the compostier, but what's wrong? It's a bit too small, but it doesn't matter because there's nothing in it, okay? So you can drive around several countries, and they got the message for this, but a lot of times they didn't get the rest of the message for what to put in. Okay, so the next level, okay, is, all right, so you have, let's say you have a decent fish harvest and you want better the next time. What should you do? And we did this with the farmers when we were doing our on-farm trials in Rwanda. We said, we're going to get you to the market so you can sell your fish, but we're going to also take you to buy a little bit of fertilizer with some of that money. So chemical fertilizer is a lot cheaper per nitrogen and phosphorus than manure, if you have to buy the manure. Okay, if you have the manure, fine. But if you don't, it's better to buy chemical fertilizer right now. And even if you have the manure, it's usually better to use it on the soil than it is in the water. It's a lot more effective on the soil. Again, we had the same, I'm in trouble. We had the same inputs for that we had figured out in Rwanda, okay? All right, so this is pretty much the same that we were talking about on the recommendations. But then we go to level 3. So what else can you do if you want to invest more? Well, you can use agricultural byproducts. So you get your pond watered green, and then you add the energy with bran, which has a bit of protein too, but that can really bump up your production. And this is when we're getting the 70 kilos per 100 square meters, or 7 tons per hectare. And that actually rivals feed-based aquaculture in non-aerated ponds, by the way. So if you can't aerate anyways, you can only intensify so much, and then oxygen becomes limiting. Okay, the next option was when you could get the pelleted feed, we would feed at half ration, not full ration, and you still fertilize, okay? And you could get 80 to 100 kilos per 100 square meters, but 60 to 80 was more typical, okay? So again, the farm-made feed, that was starting to get to be used, but it was not good enough for, or it is not quite as good as the factory-bought feed because the FCR was a little bit higher, okay? So you have to be really careful. If you're gonna make your own feed and pelletize it with one of those meat mincers, be careful if the FCR is higher, it might cost you more. All right, so here's what we ended up with. All right, so let's say you're starting at level 1, only no cash except, you know, for fingerlings and everything available on farm. This is what you could get from the sales of the fish. This is what you need to go to the next level. And this is how much left over for you, okay? So if you could get the farmer to think about this ahead of time, that helps. Now, the people that don't do a good job are only making another $12. So they might have to stay at level 1, you know, until they get a handle on their natural production with their inputs. You can go to level 2, it's gonna cost you this much. This is what you get from sales, and this is what you have to go to the next level, okay? And then you can go up to level 4 if you want to, okay? But if you see what's left over here, the better people here are doing worse people than the level 4. And we've seen this happen, okay? So this is a way to get people to think about intensifying in a stepwise fashion. Okay, so can subsistence farmers move up the scale? Yes, but you have to plan the steps, and they have to, it might take them more than 1 or 2 cycles. All right, let me go real quick here to, all right, we're gonna discuss later, so don't worry. All right, so later on, and it was just maybe 5 years ago, the Gatsby Foundation out of the UK wanted to invest in aquaculture development in East Africa, and they asked me, why are the pond farmers not making any money? We have floating feed now. Why can't they make money? And Kenya had a aquaculture stimulus project in which they built the ponds, gave the fingerlings, gave the floating feed, and, you know, let people go to town. But they didn't make money, in fact, if you had evaluated everything. So I said, that's because they're overfeeding with pelleted feed, okay? And they're not, the only people who did make money were people who used fertilizer, by the way. So we went back to the technology from 1998 or something like that, and put it on the farm, and we compared bran and fertilizer, low protein feed plus fertilizer, and high protein feed at half ration plus fertilizer. So as you see, again, when you're going to this low input, you get really variable productions, okay? When you get to the feed and fertilizer, it's a little bit more stable, except for the non-performers who actually use the feed somewhere else. That's why they look so bad. But, all right, let me go real quick. So we looked at productivity. We looked at cost of feed. So how much does it cost you to produce a kilo of fish? And then this half ration was rather consistent, but the bran plus fertilizer was less consistent here, but did really well. And that was because of people who had leaky ponds. So can you make money? these guys were making lots of money here. It was costing them less than $1 a kilo to produce the fish, or about $1 a kilo to produce for inputs, selling at $3 a kilo. Some sold for even more. So this was the returns to 100 per 100 square meters. Okay? And again, I would say you can get more with brand and fertilizer if you know what you're doing. But if you don't, and you want to do fish culture by recipe, which is what I call feed-based aquaculture, then you can get pretty good, quite good returns if you only feed half ration and still fertilize to keep that green water. I think that's the end. Let's see. Yep.
Thank you, Professor Karen. So we have the time limitation. We can just take one question, please. If anyone have the specific question, just specific on, yeah. Joseph, please.
Hello. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm a farmer from India. I just want to know, is there any specific grass to feed them, or any grasses we can feed them?
As it turned out, the legume grasses, again, had higher nitrogen in them, and they were best. But those were in short supply in Rwanda. We ended up, in fact, we could hardly get any grass even there. We ended up using a sedge, so it's super, super fibrous grass, because that's the only thing that wasn't being used. That and Tittonia diversifolia, which was used as a hedge, and that's a very bitter leaf, so the animals aren't eating it. But look for the grass that grows fast and has good nitrogen and phosphorus. As I forgot to say, in the war in Rwanda, they were really, really food challenged all over the country because people weren't going out in the fields and farming. Our fish station there ended up producing fish because they could use the grass that was growing on the levees. So in times when times are tough, if you know those steps, you can go back to choose the step that works for you in your situation. So that's what I tell the farmers, even in Cambodia. But if feed is expensive, you do have other options, okay?
So, yeah, thank you very much. I think we have got the answer. So it's a great experience you have. I think later the participants can talk to you, discuss with you to learn more about this. So we are now at the final presentation. So yeah, let us have a big round of applause. The final keynote speaker is Associate Professor Dr. Krishna Salin. He is from Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand, who is going to speak on boosting global seafood trade. Can national certification schemes transform small-scale aquaculture in Asia? So, Dr. Krishna.
It's okay, I can. Thank you very much and good afternoon. Yeah, already the Thai lunchtime is passed by 30 minutes. So I have to be in a hurry because I'm also hungry. So yeah, I will discuss some points regarding the certification because we know that the importance of seafood quality and the trade related significance, particularly with the rejections that we hear about in export commodities. So still not coming. It's not coming here. Okay, now it's coming. I'll use this. Not good? Not good? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, talking about the Asian aquaculture systems, the Asian aquaculture production, you see that the latest FAO data shows the top 10 countries, the China, Indonesia, India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Philippines, Korea, Myanmar, Thailand, Japan. So a lot of increase in production is happening. And we know that more than 90% of the aquaculture production is coming from Asian countries, and 50% of capture fisheries is also coming from Asia. And the seafood exports, nearly 34% in quantity and nearly 36% in value coming from Asia. And China, as you have heard from Dr. Wenbo, 55% and 14.8% by capture coming from China. This is an interesting statistics that we see it's increase the production. So the smallholder farmers, I see some estimate nearly 500 million farms, smallholder farms in the world, and 200 million of them are in Asia, in China, 100 million in India, then 17 million or 20 million in Indonesia, Bangladesh, and 10 million in Vietnam. So they contribute a lot to the aquaculture production that we see just now. But we are also facing this reality with the export rejections. Most of this production might not be coming from small-scale holders, but still this is a big matter of concern. The international quality certifications, I just categorize two important certification systems, the ASC and the BAP. You see the significance of their certification is increasing in Asia, in India, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and China. And we would like to see more certification from China as well. But China has own national certification systems, so that serves the purpose. So this is an interesting development that more of these certifications are covering more species and more geographical areas. Looking at the national certification, many of these smallholder certifications started regionally because of the need for local production coming to the local supermarkets. You can see in Thailand, you see the food court or the vegetable or meat section or fish section here, you can see a lot of local products coming. So the retailers or the wholesalers, they try to certify the production. And these local chains are increasingly linking smallholder farmers to certification, which is quite interesting. And the Thailand national level, the good aquaculture practices, you see most of these aquaculture practices or GAP or BAP, they follow the FAO's, the Code of Conduct on Responsible Fisheries and Aquaculture, and they base these guidelines for formulating their own guidelines. And in Thailand, the GAP, the GAP, Thai GAP, has been doing a great job, particularly basing on the main criteria, the aquatic animal health and welfare, the food safety, environmental integrity, and also the socioeconomic aspects. All these things are covered, and the Ministry of Fisheries or the Department of Fisheries under the Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperation, they are increasingly trying to cover most of the farms in many areas. Particularly, you can see in the freshwater segment, you can see the freshwater fish, mainly tilapia, and also the prawn, macrobachium, the soft-shell turtle, crocodile, frog, crab, and many others are being covered at this time in the freshwater segment. And in the marine farms, you can see the marine finfish, the shrimp, shellfish, crab, sandworm, ornamental fish, sea cucumber. At least one farm is covered. So more species are coming under the lens of good aquaculture practice in Thailand. In Vietnam, similarly, the Viet Gap is also trying to cover many species, mainly the small-scale extensive aquaculture farms under the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and the standards and also the code of conduct level, they try to cover more species at this time. In China, we heard from Wenbo, you see the China good aquaculture practices try to cover the crops, livestock, and aquaculture as well. They aim at the local market based on the food safety and environmental guidelines, animal health and welfare guidelines, and also the socioeconomic guidelines. So good thing is that they're also trying to merge with the international accreditation like the global gap. So there is a link, trying to link the international certification with the local certification. And the China Green Food certification is very interesting because it started since the 1990s to cover many agriculture, livestock, and fishery products to make it more organically produced. And it's again a public voluntary standard. It looks at the wholesome quality control, food safety, animal health and welfare, and also socioeconomics. So you see the integrated farm, the rice and crayfish system. So they also market this product as sustainable product, fetching it a premium price. And I see this interesting seafood traceability system using QR codes in China. So this is actually good to comply with for many farms or even the fish or shrimp coming from the capture fisheries. They give this GMP, good manufacturing practices principle, like clean water, clean food principle. And interesting thing is that they assure a 10% price premium for the products. So it's more motivating and engaging with the farmers, with the producers. But there are also severe penalties for non-compliance. So it can be voluntary, but once you accept it, you have to comply with it. So this is an interesting aspect I found. Indonesia, the Indo-GAP certification, they have 3 levels of certification, which have been, they are trying to develop it and trying to get a local branding of many seafood products, especially the shrimp, Indonesian pangasius, Indonesian seaweed. So this kind of branding is being developed. An example from India, the national cluster with sustainable aquaculture. It was under the Marine Products Export Development Authority, started in 2002. I think they've also worked with the Worldfish in making these guidelines. So it is still continuing with the Coastal Aquaculture Authority guidelines being followed. And also there is a mandatory guidelines for wastewater discharge, for licensing the farms, and also the permissible residual limit has been set for compliance. This CAA, the Coastal Aquaculture guidelines, are also very engaging because sometimes the authorities come to the hatcheries and open the tank for disposal, and because if they don't comply. So it's a bit strict. And recently the Marine Products Export Development Authority has come up with this Shapari certification, which is a more local national standard for shrimp farming, especially for the commodities that are exported. So many hatcheries and farms are getting certified quite recently. And the Bangladesh Shrimp Seal of Quality, that also started with buyer-driven compulsions, because in the following an EU ban in 1997 of the Bangladeshi shrimp exported. So now they're trying to label the local production as sustainable production with the Bangladesh Seal of Quality. Malaysia also has developed their own good aquaculture practices, the MyGAP, so under the Department of Fisheries, and they cover the pinnate shrimp, freshwater prawn, then fish, mollusks, and also ornamental fish. In Cambodia, the good aquaculture practices, I see a recent report when it was stated that out of the 331 new aquaculture facilities, 8 facilities have been certified by the good aquaculture practice. So you can see Cambodia has many smallholder farms, earthen farms, and also the cage farms, as you can see in this picture. So it's not easy to certify all the production because it's coming from a very diverse farming systems. Japan has the marine eco label, and this is again, Japan has a very complex value chain coming from the sea, from the farms, not much. So working with these complex value chains is not really easy, but they have this eco label, which is sometimes difficult to measure the effectiveness, and also people complain that it is more expensive to comply with these guidelines. And also there is a question how much it can be in compliance with the international guidelines. But there is a good reason to believe that it is compatible with international certification. And more regionally, the ASEAN has the good aquaculture practices, the GAQP. It came long back, but it has not been implemented yet. And I know that they are trying to implement with the guidelines now. With a model farm, they have already identified in Borneo in Malaysia. And then in the first step, they are trying to test many biological compounds as an alternative to antimicrobial chemicals. So this initiative is now coming up based on the guidelines from the ASEAN good aquaculture practices. So this is a big question coming to the smallholder farmers. How effective the smallholder farmers can take part in this certification process? So we have a situation like so many number of farms coming together, and each farm has a small quantity of production. So how to certify them all? And again, the cost is a big complaint. Whoever you ask, the main thing that is prohibitive is the cost of certification. So I don't think we can reduce so much the cost of certification, because to make a serious auditing, inspection, and certification process, it is expensive. So we have to devise ways how to ensure quality with the creditable certification system. And farmers also have problem with access to finance, because it's not easy for governments to subsidize the certification all the time. So the subsidies or incentives that they get is quite limited in that sense. And then the traceability in most cases is very complex, because in Asia you have a lot of complex component segments in the value chain with producers and different levels of middlemen or intermediaries, then the exporters, and finally to the major distributor or local marketer. So this is a bit complex, and getting all these components together in the value chain to be compliant with these guidelines is not quite easy. And the market access for small farmers is also a problem, because they lack technical knowledge, marketing skills, and essential business infrastructure. So this is something that we need to take care of. And more importantly, I think the problem is we are coming up with new standards and guidelines every day. I think we have some standard guidelines then that you do not need to reinvent so many things, because we understand what is needed for food safety and what are the practical steps needed for compliance for small farmers. So if we can consolidate many things together and look at the farmers as one, not a homogeneous entity, but it is heterogeneous, but there should be some kind of consolidation at some point of time or scale. I'll also cite a few examples of how the natural productivity can also contribute, as we are talking about natural productivity. This particular, the project in India with rotational crop of rice and rotational crop of freshwater prawn, certifying them as organic freshwater prawn and organic rice. It took 3-4 years for a transition from the conventional to the organic system, and the feed was produced by a certified organic feed mill. Seed was coming from a certified organic hatchery, and the farm, this 4 farms were certified. This is the one farm, you can see. Yeah, that farm is one single farm. This is actually a paddy field because they have a nursery adjacent to the paddy field, and the prawn seed will be stocked 45 days before the harvest, and once the harvest is done, the paddy field becomes one big prawn pond. So that's the system. And similar systems with shrimp combined with integrated with mangroves, as you can see in Vietnam. And also we have many black tiger farms in Thailand, extensive farms up to 10 to 15 or 20 hectares. They are taking the crop without any feed. They stock the PL, no feeding, and in 6 to 10 months, they get like 50 gram shrimp, big size. The farmer gets 600 baht per kilo. So that size. So it's very profitable. And organic production is also promising in terms of climate change and also environmentally sound. So we actually track this organic farming system in India, and you can see the publication because we found that it is 20% more profitable than the conventional rice or conventional prawn farming. So organic farming can be profitable, and organic farming can also be, contributing to the climate change mitigation. You see that the integrated farms in Vietnam, this study shows that their carbon footprint is much better than the conventional farms. So this is something very interesting to see that we can promote this using natural productivity or minimal supplements and still get a profitable production plus something which is very advantageous to the environment. So I was trying to I found this study in India, which is kind of trying to figure out the production from the farm scales. So this is the natural big pond system of carps. They depend on the phytoplankton and zooplankton productivity, plus add some locally available brand feed. And you see the small farms get a bit lower production, still very high, and the big farms get a bit better production and more profitability, merely by the economy of scale. But this depends on many different factors, especially on the species, because these farms use a polyculture, a composite culture using Indian major carps and the Chinese carps. There are also examples from Thailand. You see the farmer cooperatives, because smallholder farmers cannot perform so much well independently. So if you get them organized under the cooperatives, see, this is a shrimp farming cooperative, and they follow low stocking densities and also develop zooplankton productivity in the ponds, so that their feed is lower, and also they make sure that they get better production from the ponds. Another example of getting these cooperatives working together with the sea bass, the Thai sea bass. Actually, it is going to I know many Thai friends know about this. I'm not talking about the current situation, but it has been a great development that is still promising. So how effective are these national certification schemes? So can we depend on the government support all the time? Or because we get the market pressures almost every day to produce better, to produce more efficient product to the market. And we also face criticism from producers as well as exporters and importers. So there is no clear-cut, convergence on many of these points. And some people even criticize why you should have local certification, because if it is not, valid for international market. So these are the, problems that we face. And good thing is that many national certifications are getting converged into local certifications, like the ASC and Vietgap synergy that's applied for shrimp, pangasius, and tilapia, and also the GSSI compliance for marine eco-label in Japan. Again, this is interesting. And also in China, also this is coming up with the convergence with local good aquaculture practice and local standards. So finally, to conclude some take-home messages. So we really need this third-party certifications, which is crucial, especially for smallholder farms. But we still need to understand much more about the environmental impacts from these small-scale aquaculture systems, and how we can better integrate these standards with the local and, with these standards with the international standards, or better integration of national and international standards is important. Promoting cooperative farming has been successful in many cases. We have many successful examples, but it's always difficult to get these cooperatives work together for many years. This harmonizing this collaboration is really difficult, to be honest. And then group certification has been tried. It has been successful. And then we also think that we need to focus more on local species certification, because that contributes to the local economy and livelihood in many countries in Asia. And also, we need to have more effective vertical coordination in the value chain in tandem with the processes. So more to be done, and I see that a lot of discussion is happening at this time. And thank you very much, Professor Andy, Professor Chanarang, for initiating this discussion and organizing this wonderful conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salin, for your great presentation. Now we have the time to get a few questions, please. Who is going to ask first? Any questions, comments, or discussion point? Yes? There are two. Joseph? Yes.
More of a comment in this case. I think what you're characterizing as national certification systems, the important thing to recognize is they're second party, and that means that in terms of credibility, the market is looking for truly third party systems. That's going to be a fundamental challenge, and you've also described how that logically they can serve as an entry point into those third party systems, which they're doing. But it's interesting, at the start of your talk, you gave lots of examples of numbers for adoption of these second-party systems. As market-based governance systems, you have to demonstrate a market demand for the system. So my question is what evidence is that local demand is being supplied, is being created for these systems? Because their second-party attributes become less important if they're servicing, national markets.
Yeah, I think that also depends on the perception of the consumers, because not always consumers are, they are ready to buy a sustainable product.
Are they?
Not everywhere.
Yeah.
In many surveys, I see that even in Europe, people think it's a price that matters. So they look at the brand, they look at the backside of the label, is it certified? But still, if there is a price difference, sometimes people may go for. It depends on the societies where we live in. Wherever there is a big local demand, like in Thailand, even without any certification, Thais can serve because there is a big local demand. And many of these stores are actually ensuring their quality to a great extent. But many cases, the quality, the perception of the consumers, and also the species that we work with, all influences this decision of the consumer, to be honest, because we are under the market pressure all the time. So there is an increasing consumer segment that are looking for better quality, better, more safe product. So that is increasing everywhere. And as we see, it is coming up in Africa too. So I didn't talk about Africa, but Africa, there is a big market coming up.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have more questions, please. Yeah, Dr. Ian.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My question is, as you are from India, as I understood, what is your take on the PGS system, the participatory guarantee system, which is also implemented in India for a local market, which doesn't come with all the financial burden of third-party certification?
To be honest, I don't know much about that, but you work in the Assam region, right?
Yes.
In GIZ. Okay. Yeah, I heard of it, but I don't know much about that, to be honest. But I think you are working with the rice fields. Is it more rice farmers or rice and fish farmers?
What we are doing is we have started the first fish certification, and we can discuss this later.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That would
because
be great with Jeharul. I think he will be.
Yeah, I think if somebody can talk more about that, because I think, to be honest.
Session on the third day is there, so that's okay.
Okay,
Thanks a lot. I just was thinking that you are involved in the certification. You might.
No, I was actually involved in another organic farming project in India, that is for monodon, black tiger. That's in the Sundarbans. So they are just the natural ponds, the Sundarban area, the wetland, where they stock organic monodon seed, black tiger, and this has been successful for over, and it is continuing now, since 2015. So we almost certified 1,500 hectares of Sundarban wetlands. So we had 2 hatcheries producing organically certified shrimp seed. Then these farms individually, they are small farms, but they are collectively certified. And actually the product goes to Aldi in Germany, in the supermarket. So this is actually continuing. And it is certified, a lot of challenges, but we were able to do this since 2015. So we still continue this. Yeah.
So thank you. Any more question, please? If not, we are beyond the time. So this is the time of concluding this technical session 1. And thank you very much. Thank you all the speakers for your time to synthesizing your presentations and giving the presentation here. And thank you audience for your active participations. I think there are many questions remain. Maybe individually, personally, you can talk later and discuss and get more insights. So finally, I would not talk any longer, and I would like to thank the moderators, Dr. Partho, then March, and our little facilitator, Joseph. And thank you, organizers, for giving me this opportunity and honor to be part of these sessions. And thank you, particularly Dr. Andy, for inviting us and organizing this. And thank you very much. Now I am going to hand over the microphone to the organizers and there should be some announcement. Thank you.
So that brings the curtain down for session 1 of the day 1. And now that was indeed an insightful conversation and good presentations and active participation. Thank you so much. And we will now take a lunch break for around 1 hour. And we expect the audience to be back here by around 2 p.m. for technical session 2. So enjoy your lunch and have a happy networking. Thank you.